If you know anything about my channel, sooner or later, you know that I own a copy of Britannia Unchained. And inevitably, the question gets asked, why on earth did you buy this copy? Why did you buy a copy of this book? Like, why on earth do you even own this? And yet, you've got to look at what this book really is telling people, because you've got to remember, Priti Patel, one of the co-authors of this book, guess where she is now? She's the shadow foreign secretary. So these ideas that Britannia Unchained propagated, telling you like what they wanted to do, their ideas, their whole ideology of how they were going to sort of run a government, how they've been acting, what ideologies they are going to do, almost in some cases, their talking points and what they intended to do. This book, for the past couple of years, has been incredibly useful. And the whole reason why I got it was there was a news story. There's this random news article. Now I was just reading through it, and then it went, oh, Boris Johnson was seen reading a copy of this. And this was just before, I think, the 2019 election. I thought, if I'm going to understand not only sort of the current Conservative Party, but their ideology, how they think, what their motives are, I'm probably going to have to read this. And I have done. It's a wild ride. Like I say, probably the most quoted part is, let me get to it. Chapter 4, the opening of chapter 4, if not the most infamous part, but obviously the most quoted. Work ethic. Straight away, it begins with this. Once they enter the workplace, the British are amongst the worst idlers in the world. They work amongst the lowest hours, they retire early, and their productivity is poor. Whereas Indian children aspire to be doctors or businessmen, British are now more interested in football and pop music. And it goes on to say how bad like the work ethic is of, you know, of the British people, of the British public. Take this back to just a couple of weeks ago, where we saw Timmy Badnock talk about how, oh, these people get too much maternity pay. It's far too generous. So still, to this day, this book is paying dividends. To this day, this book is paying dividends still to this day, because everything where I look at what the Conservative is doing, how they are acting, sort of my sort of responses to them, all comes from a foundation of knowledge based on this, because I know where it's all coming from. I know where it's all coming from. That whole free market fundamentalist ideology all comes from here still. So obviously we know that, and I say this now to a lot of people in America, if you are worried about Trump, you know, I say this is all like seriousness. If you want to understand what the next couple of years are going to be like in America, and more importantly, how you can put a stop to some of the nonsense that is going to go on with Trump, I urge you very, very seriously, go and read Project 2025. Now, I haven't read the full thing myself. I've only skimmed it. I think we did a live stream a couple of months ago. Well, yeah, it was a couple of months ago when it started to become more in the early days where it was sort of being talked about. And we skimmed through it at the time, and I will admit I do not fully understand the US system. So, I do not understand everything about it, but you can see people have written rebuttals against Project 2025. People have made videos about it, what this stuff or doing this stuff actually means. But in it, you now get the blueprints of this is what potentially the next Trump presidency is going to be like. This is what they are going to intend to do. So one of the big things in Project 2025 is to completely scrap and get rid of the Department of Education. I am not joking. That is one of the big things in Project 2025. They want to get rid of the Department of Education. So what then does this mean for education right across America? Well, you now have not got a sort of federal level where it could just go off and wild and crazy. It will mean that for those parents who can really afford it, send their kids to um, private or even the charter schools, which is the whole thing that they want to do. Congratulations, your kid is probably going to end up probably getting quite a good education, will probably go to university, probably get a good job. Meanwhile, the vast majority of American children are going to be barely illiterate or barely literate in many cases. Maths is going to be a constant problem for these people. What does that mean for a future workforce for America? Well, it means very, very bad things, of course. Time and time again, it has proved if you have a good educated workforce, guess what? It's a good workforce. And yet, Trump wants to make America great again based on that idea and principle, idea and ideology. Now, it'll take some time for that to happen. But make no mistake, things like that are going to happen. And there's plenty more in Project 2025. There's plenty more. It's an entire book. It's even bigger than this. If you want to get a hold of a physical copy, but you can go and download it for free, offline and read it. And I definitely recommend if you are in America, if you are worried about Trump, you want to understand what's going to happen over the next couple of years in America. You want to understand the tactics that they are going to employ. You want to understand how maybe you can deploy yourself to maybe stop or maybe block some of these things. Pay very, very close attention to that. Go and read it. Because as dumb as it sounds, a lot of and bear in mind, this is mostly rhetoric at the end of the day. Here, we got lucky, we got very, very lucky that most of this is rhetoric, around wanting to make a low tax, low regulation country. It was all rhetoric. There's no real policy in here. But as we've seen many, many times from all these different conservative administrations that we've had since this book came out, they've tried to make it real. Liz Truss tried to make Britannia Unchained real. And remember, Priti Patel is on the front bench, sitting next to Kimmy Badenoch, and it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me in the slightest to find out Kimmy Badenoch has read this. No one's asked her yet, but it would not surprise me to find out that she has read this. So once again, this book becomes yet another foundational keystone for understanding, why the Conservative Party thinks the way it does, why they're going to go in certain directions, what ideology and stuff they're going to follow. So I urge you, if you are in America, go read Project 2025, because they've done the dumb thing of putting their plans out in the open. And once you know their plans, what they're going to do, well, that's when you can start to mobilize against it. Because I've seen a lot of people going, what should we do? What should we do? Now Trump wins. What should we do? Go read Project 25. They've put the plans out in the open. And once you understand that, then you can understand, okay, institutionally, organizationally, what can we actually do to organize to really start putting a stop to the things that Trump wants to do. So that's my message for people in America who have been asking, I think quite rightly, for the past couple of days, past 2 or 3 days, what do we do? It's exactly what you go do. Go read it, go understand it. You may not like it. I hate every single thing that's written in here, but it gives you a goddamn understanding about what they intend to do, how they intend to go about doing it, and even more so for Project 2025. So if you want to know, and in America, you're asking, what do we do? Go do that. They'll tell you what, this has helped me immensely understand a lot of the nonsense that the Conservative Party has been putting out for years. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.